Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Twyla Cummings, and I am the Paul and Louise Miller Distinguished Professor in the School of Print Media and the Associate Dean, thank you, and the Associate Dean for the College of Imaging Arts and Sciences here at RIT. And it is truly my pleasure to welcome you to today's lecture presentation. I am so pleased that you have chosen to join us for this very special occasion. We appreciate the fact that this event will be enriched by the presence and expertise of our professional sign language interpreters. We thank them for their dedication to this important work. Today's event is part of the Paul and Louise Miller Lecture Series, which is one of several programs that is part of the School of Print Media's News Media Initiative. This series is comprised of lectures on the current cultural, business, technology, and audience trends in news publishing. The College of Imaging Arts and Sciences and the Paul and Louise Miller Professorship are pleased to sponsor this event. Additionally, I would like to recognize our other event sponsors: Academic Affairs, Division of Student Affairs, Barnes & Noble at RIT, the Multicultural Center for Academic Success, Alumni Relations, the Center for Campus Life, the Office for Diversity and Inclusion, and the Center for Women and Gender. This event would not have been possible without your support, so please join me in thanking our sponsors. The Paul and Louise Miller Distinguished Professorship was established in 1976 by the trustees of the Gannett Foundation in honor of Paul and Louise Miller. Paul Miller became the president of Gannett Corporation in 1957, and in 1963 was elected president of the Associated Press. He was appointed to the board of trustees of the Rochester Institute of Technology in 1950. Throughout his career, he maintained that our actions must be determined not by mere compliance with state or federal law, not by public attitudes, but on the basis of doing the right thing. This afternoon's lecture, entitled Portrayal of Women in News and Other Media, is a testament to Mr. Miller's words. Today's news is a very powerful distributed media that can invoke a positive or a negative reaction or impact and can subsequently change the course of one's life. Issues involving women are often popular topics in the media, and many times women are depicted in unflattering ways, which only serves to establish certain stereotypes and impressions as to how women think, how women act, and how they will respond in certain situations. This is a very relevant topic for not just women, but for everyone that is a consumer of news and distributed media. We are so fortunate to have award-winning actress and author Victoria Rowell here to shed some light on this topic. As a woman in the media spotlight, she has firsthand knowledge of how women are portrayed both positively and negatively across various mediums. She is able to draw from her real-life experiences, and through her unique perspective, she will share these insights with us today. I have had the privilege to hear her speak previously, and I can tell you that you are in for a very special treat. After her lecture, we will have time for a short Q&A period. There are microphones located in the two main aisles, and since this event is being recorded, we really need you to use the microphones when you are asking your questions. So on that note, it gives me great pleasure to bring to the podium Darcy Lane Williams, Director for the Center of Women and Gender here at RIT, to introduce our speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Twyla. Thank you for joining us today. I just had the pleasure of meeting Victoria, and she's amazing, so you're in for a treat. We're wrapping up Women's History Month, and in that spirit, we have invited an amazing woman to share her insights, experiences, and wisdom with us. Many of you know her from The Young and the Restless, a daytime drama that she starred on for 17 years. Some of you may recognize her from her various roles in television and film. Those of you that are drawn to the internet may have read her blogs with the Huffington Post. Women who fancy hats may recognize her hat line. Victoria is also an ally to the LGBT community, and I bet only a few of you know that she is also a rapper. I didn't know that either. You can Google that later if you don't believe me. Victoria Rowell has been honored with 12 NAACP Image Awards. She earned these prestigious awards for her accomplishments not only as an actress, but as an author as well. Victoria's debut literary work is titled The Women Who Raised Me. In this book, she shares her experiences as a girl who spent her entire childhood in the foster care system, a system in which she is now a passionate advocate for children who need an advocate the most. Victoria celebrates the women who supported and loved her without regard to race or relation. As a child, Victoria discovered a love of dance and became an accomplished ballet dancer. I could go on about Victoria and how awesome she is, but I'm sure you already know that, and that's why you're here. You are in for a treat, a ray of light on a less than sunny day here in Rochester. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce a phenomenal, accomplished, down-to-earth, and very sweet, beautiful woman, Ms. Victoria Rowell.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here. There's Mike. It's wonderful. Thank you, RIT. God, what an impressive campus. Thank you, Professor Cummings. And I so thank you for that beautiful introduction, all the work that you do. I was here last year. I was invited to give a keynote and meet with the women and families at the YWCA. And it was particularly, I have heels. I have them with me, and I have them in the bag. They're wonderful high heels. But I thought, this is really my shoe of choice, the Timbs. Anybody else with me in the audience? Yeah. In clement weather, I can stand on point. There's all kinds of things I can do with the Timbs. But I came out here at the invitation of the YWCA, and because of my work in child welfare and the Annie E. Casey Foundation, which is a charitable arm of United Parcel Service, I wanted to visit, and I wanted to meet with the facilitators because we had an incredible program that wasn't just an emergency program, but a program that had wraparound services and long-term residential. And if you don't know about the YWCA program here in Rochester, I please encourage you to find out more and perhaps volunteer there. The women are amazing. But whenever I visit, because my own history, a lot of it is lost to me, I have an incredible and insatiable appetite to learn the history of others. So that also includes where I visit. So I don't just go from the plane to the hotel and do the lecture and then get on the plane and go back home. I walk around And I went over to the George Kodak home, and I happened to walk. I love architecture, and I love gardens, and that was incredible. And then they have, who knew, there was like a beautiful silent film or theater in the back there, and I caught a silent film, and I saw the Bausch and Lomb facility, and it was just great. I just had a great time. And I met Twyla during the YWCA lecture, and we sort of brainstormed, and so here we are. So thank you for this amazing invitation, which loops into media. You've got to open your mouth, and you've got to have moral courage, and don't self-edit your ideas and your wisdom. You're here for a reason. It's an absolute miracle. And I'm not going to give a whole anthropological but what I'm going to say is that it's a miracle that you stand here. Millennium have produced you. So understand that your ideas are salient and important, and as women in media, you are going to be told no many, many, many times. Typically in news, it is a male-driven industry where women's pitches are not typically embraced. I'm going to share just a few hot-button topics around women in news behind the camera. And then we'll talk about the women a little bit in front of the camera. But for instance, there's discrimination around maternity leave still. There's been some gains, but there's still discrimination around maternity leave and child care. I remember when I was pregnant working on a show, and I was a contract player, and I was forced to stop working. There is a fear that rises up. You're under contract, but oh my God, what if I go against the producers? And oh my God, it's my bread and butter, and what'll I do? Okay, and I left. And I didn't want to leave. I had no medical issue. I was, ready to go to work, and I said, okay. And then I was asked to give back, refund the company $40,000. And I called my agent and I said, what is going on here? I'm now being called and asked to return $40,000 of my annual income. Why? They feel that they've overpaid you. So I won't go into all the nuts and bolts of what happened, but again, the question arose, well, Vicki, this is where your bread is buttered. Are you going to go up against this huge company and dispute that they've overpaid you by $40,000? I'm under contract, and I didn't, and I gave them back the $40,000. But let's go even deeper. What kind of framing do we have as women that protects us? The people that say that they are your representatives don't represent. So you really have to read the fine print. As I mentioned earlier, women in the production of news have less access to the investigative materials. You may have a fantastic story from a women's perspective that would really resonate with the total audience, but typically your story will not see the light of day, or your story will be taken and produced, but you will not get the credit for it. Sexism in the workplace. Well, Vicki, why do you have Timberlands on? Sexism in the workplace, we are expected to flirt. Still, one of my favorite shows is Mad Men. I love that Matthew Weiner fought and nobody wanted his show and AMC said yes. But this show, it's a depiction of what happened then, but how far from it are we really? And there's an expectation to flirt. There's an expectation to flirt and do whatever to get that interview, to get that job. And it still goes on. I've seen it, and it is detrimental, of course, to a progressive process when we have women that play into that. Now, I don't blame the women, because unfortunately, they haven't been mentored. And we have a series of women who get to and beyond the glass ceiling, and then they're given severance packages. And we have senior level women as EPs. There's one EP in news at ABC, one. Few and far between are in those executive seats. And there are women in those executive seats that are so exhausted from lugging that way that when they get there and they have the staying power, not without the blowback, the pushback every single day with all the things I've just peppered in and more right now. You know, their wives, their significant others, they have children, they're going to the soccer games, they're on the boards, they have this whole professional life and showing up for all of that. We're exhausted and putting on this face and this body armor going into work. So they're exhausted. So then, you know, a younger, you've graduated, let's say, hypothetically, and you are walking into this, you know, big corporation, and you're wondering, well, why isn't Mrs. Jones helping me more? And you've got all kinds of ideas and an attitude behind why isn't she doing more? Well, she did as much as she could. So there is that perspective. Then you have women that get behind a desk, get the seat, and they're not budging. And they don't want to see you come through the door because you're going to change things. And, you know, familiarity can be very dangerous because one doesn't want change. This is work, this is the status quo, and you coming in and turning the apple cart upside down really reflects on what Mrs. Jones isn't doing. For 20 years. And here you come with all your bright, fancy ideas, progressive, you know, you've got several ear piercings, you've got a streak of purple in your hair, you're wearing Timbs, and you come in and you've got all of these fabulous ideas that are going to open the company in, and open the company up, and exponentially grow to bigger financial success. Some people don't want you there. And they're going to make it very difficult. Let's say you're in the company, but they're going to make it very difficult. And sometimes, unfortunately, that may come from another woman because you're competition. And there's only one desk. And there's only a couple, maybe, of opportunities. Because we're not at the big table. We're not in that boardroom decision-making table. And so there's infighting instead of the mentoring that should be broad and open, and the opportunity isn't there. So what we need is access. You know, I'm going to loop back to our women and the flirting. I was so disappointed when, you know, a senior EP at NBC retired last year. Oh my God. She was huge, African American, right up there at Universal with all of the executives. And Jeff Zucker, hey, nobody told me my button was unbuttoned. And, you know, she retired, and she's running the Africa Channel now. And I just had the pleasure of working with her on a project in Maroontown in Jamaica. And, you know, I just had to say something, you know, oh, Paula. And I came away from talking with her with the understanding that it takes so much to get to this apex of a huge corporation and have that kind of decision-making power, there is this thing called self-preservation as well in this process, because it takes a lot out of you. And we have to make a decision. Even when we've reached this incredible place up there, where the air is kind of rarefied, but it's also a little thin, and you have to make a decision. Am I going to stay, or am I going to go and take my chances to grow where I think my ideas will be cultivated and I will really see my vision take off? And that takes courage. That just takes plain courage. Back to my flirtatious ladies. If we don't give our young girls, our young ladies, the mentoring in the beginning, and not all of us are mentored by a mother, a bio mom. I certainly wasn't mentored by my bio mom. I was meant to be raised by many mothers. And it is also our responsibility as young ladies to extract the light from other women who are offering it to us. Now, they're not going to walk around with a placard saying, I'm your mentor, I'm your mentor. No, usually the person you want to mentor you is unavailable because they're that fabulous. They're that busy. And you really have to pursue them, not in an obnoxious way, but in a way that is mildly aggressive, but with class. So pursue that person. Let them know that you're serious. And deeds, not words, deeds. Show them that you're serious. You're going to show up. You're going to suit up. And you mean business. Sometimes your mentoring will come from that woman or a group of women. Also watch them, listen to them, learn from them. Many of the young ladies depicted in media today, I don't know what their idea is of being a woman. When you look at media rewarding front cover stories to Snooki, to Kim Kardashian, to romanticizing teen pregnancy, when you look at these depictions, Nicki Minaj, backside all out, and these women are now on the covers of our leading periodicals. And so you have to ask the overarching publisher, would you allow is this what you want your young daughters to look like? We know that Kim Kardashian's claim to fame, her initial introduction to celebrity was a sex tape. So it's probably my phone. We're just going to pretend that this is theater and it's not happening. But this is what we're up against. Media is a powerful tool in both directions. But this is what's being fed to not only our young ladies, but to our young men. This is what we're presenting. America is presenting a type of prostitution. This is what we're saying is good. We're the tastemakers, and this is what we're presenting. Very dangerous. And there is a ripple effect in the imagery of women. Girls who, and parents who have poured everything they know that is good into their child. Young ladies and young men alike. This is what we want for you. This is our standard. This is our gold standard. And everything that they have taught them, all their values, is being contradicted over here. Mass media 24/7. In the little portals, on the big portals, on the magazines, on the billboards. I mean, raising my children in Hollywood, I would have to take a different route because there was a billboard with a woman almost topless on a billboard. Reality television, anything goes. The worst behavior. You've got Bad Girls, you've got Flav-a-Time, you've got Miss New York. Look, all of it is entertainment, I get it. And people will say, well, turn the channel, don't watch it. It's a bigger issue, isn't it? It's everywhere. Why? Because at the end of the day, it's about money. It's about sales. It's about advertising time. And whoever sells is going to get that slot. It doesn't matter what it's about. And at the end of the day, reality television is so cost effective for networks and for cable. It's one camera, unscripted. They own you. All these housewives shows, horrific. This is not the depiction of women, educated women in the world. And America chooses to show women in this ignorant, baseless narrative that is not who we are. As white women, as black women, as Asian women, as Latinas, it does not depict who we are as a gender. And people say, well, what can we do? I mean, media is big. Yeah, media is big. And we see how it can work. Most recently with the Trayvon Martin case. Media is very powerful. And so, okay, well, what is it about media that makes a difference? Well, advertising. Are you buying the products? Are you buying the products? Most likely, yes. Women are huge consumers. For instance, African American spending, according to Nielsen.com, is to hit $1.4 trillion in 2014. We're generational buyers. I was on a soap opera, as mentioned earlier. We sell Procter & Gamble soap. That's what soaps went on the radio for, to sell soap for housewives. We still sell, Pine Sol and all kinds of Beatrice products. You have to know who's at the top. In the billions you're buying. So if you want to create effective change, you have to make a decision. Well, maybe I'm not going to buy that product until I see them turn the corner here. That's the only way. You've got to get off the bus. And yeah, maybe it's going to be a generic paper towel. And maybe it's going to be an eco-friendly detergent. And good for you, by the way. But believe it when I say your drop in the bucket will eventually add up and get the change you want to see. Because the minute those magazines stop selling, the minute that show gets a call from Procter & Gamble or whoever, you have to study what's being advertised. The minute those things stop, they will change. Based upon your emails, your hard mail, they read those emails. Believe me, somebody is counting what you're asking for. But if it does not affect the purse, there's really not going to be a whole lot of change. But if they know that you're going to change that dial, there will be change. I wanted to start out with the sexism, with the flirtatiousness, with the lack of mentoring at the senior level because we're not there. I've talked to many women who've put in 30 years within airlines, women who've put in 30 years with a network, women with the news. My niece works at ABC. Many of those women, of those circumstances, and I just told you it's a very small minority of women in those positions, though they exist, there's one. And when they get those severance packages, they typically leave. They're ready to go. So I wanted to start off there. I will now share with you some of my experiences on the entertainment side. I've always been about the business, not just going in there and reading the lines, but I would evaluate, well, where are the women? Where are minority women? What's going on? And I would ask the hard questions and gather the data. So for instance, Young and the Restless. It's been on the show for 38 years. And it's 51% owned by Sony, and 1% is owned by Ken Corday, and the rest of the percentages are owned by the Bell family. And William Bell, who hired me, who's now deceased, was a fantastic man. But when he hired me, he said, Vicki, he was very specific. He needed to hire me because his predominant audience is African American women. Those women are predominantly in the South. The #1 market is Louisiana. These are typically older single women, some living on dirt roads, but they don't have a computer. And so those measurements aren't taken. They are unknown. But they do know that their audience on The Young and the Restless is overwhelmingly African American women, and over 50%. The show is licensed to over 150 countries on the continent of Africa, shows twice a day in the Caribbean, from Romania to France. 150 countries that we know of. And so I beg the question, given this data, sirs, may I write for the show? You've never had a minority writer, and you've never had a minority director, or a minority executive producer, or co-producer. I've given storyline, foster care adoption storyline behind the scenes. I've done the choreography. I did the classical music selection. I've consulted on wardrobe. I've presented in education forums on behalf of the show, done press, did the parades, Rose Bowl Thanksgiving parades. May I please, as an African American woman, working for CBS for 22 years, between 2 shows, may I please write an episode? No. And so, if not me, then who? And if not me, when? And so, it was time to continue not alone in this struggle. I had been working on diversity. I got a black, very capable hairstylist onto the show. And there were many, many circumstances where I was working. I went to CBS HR to try to get foster youth employed. I was successful in getting foster youth behind the scenes employed through Viacom. And I have a youth that's still working in the entertainment industry, Earl Sampson for Paramount. But I went to the National Urban League. I was disappointed the NAACP didn't do more. But the National Urban League stepped up, and we were able to successfully present the data. And we were able to convince Sony that, yes, we need to look at this. And last year, they gave full contracts to African American writer Susan Dansby, 4-time Emmy Award winner, and to Albert Alar, black director. So this was really a victory. As women, I know we're hardwired beyond the actual job. We don't just go into the job and sit down. We feel the energy, and we look at the environment. And if we don't, we're not breathing. And when I walked into work every week, I thought, this just is not right. I'm presenting. I feel like the dancing dog. I know I have a huge following, and I can't get anyone to listen to me before, don't go, Neil. And I was just like, I can do that with my eyes closed, right? What do you mean, Phyllis? Get over here, Lily, Devon, Mrs. Chancellor, Victor. I can do that. I love it. I love it. You know, Malcolm, where have you been? Yeah. All that's fun, right? And you count on that. And my employers count on me to deliver that. But growing up in foster care with strong, intrepid women, they didn't have money, farmers, one mother sold Avon, worked at Boston City Hospital, bold for relaxation. Another, you know, none of them had a lot of money, but they were courageous. And they stood their ground, and they gave that to me. That is my inheritance. And that experience, you think things are being done to you, but they're being done for you. And when I walked into work, I was flanked with these women. And I was like, no, not on my watch. This is not right. You mean to tell me you have a minority audience, the needle going towards 60%, buying products generationally, and there's no one of color in these positions that make a difference, that speaks to this audience too? We love the chancellors, we love the Abbotts, but we also have the Winters, and we also have others. And so it's not okay to bring on an Asian woman and just kick her to the curb, and it's not okay to bring in a Latina and kick her to a curb. And that a revolving door of diversity, that's not diversity. And for that matter, why are there diversity programs? Why isn't diversity there? So, look, when you are a person like me, who's a humanist, which I guess makes me an activist, when you are a person like me who will absolutely implode if not given an opportunity to speak on the issue in a proper forum, there's retribution. And so you have to be prepared in any corporate setting, in any setting. As I said in the beginning of my remarks, not everyone's going to be excited that you're there at the table. Not everyone's going to be excited that you're there. Because it is different. And it feels like a tight shoe. And this is the way we've done it, and this is the way it works, and therefore it's going to stay this way. And so we just need to figure out a way to get rid of the problem. And though some people like to say D for difficult, I like to say D for determined. I probably won't be going back on that show. Well, yeah, and I say too, but the reality is it's a corporation, and I've continued to expose the truth. And when you expose, I need you to come back behind the bubbles with me on this one. Let's get out of Drusilla land. Let's come back, come backstage with me, okay? Let's come on backstage for a minute, okay? And let's talk real talk. Okay, let's talk smart women talk. When, as a woman, you step up to the plate and you have that bat in your hand and you're going to hit a home run for other people, not just for yourself, but for other people, the next generation, you are going to take a hit. And you will run that home run. You will get Susan Dansby employed. You will get Albert Alar. You will get other women and minorities. Maybe one, maybe two. My years on Young and the Restless, to me, yes, the entertainment for the fans. My work for CBS Viacom, great. But I feel it's an amalgamation that sums up to the hiring of 3 minorities and jobs for foster youth behind the camera. That, to me, was worth it. You don't know about that because, you know, that doesn't get out. But that's why you don't see me on that camera. I asked to return in 2010. And they don't want to bring me back, the producers, for the reasons I just shared with you. Beyond that, you have to understand we have a male ego attached. And you know that if I were to come back, ratings would rise in a dying industry. Ratings would rise in a dying industry. And I cannot prove that, and they'd be happy about that. Because though counterintuitive to business, it would prove that a woman was able to not only explore lack of diversity, help them recognize and change it, and come back and raise ratings. It's too much power. So you have to understand the dynamics, the psychological piece attached to that. And my husband's been an incredible support during this. It's been very painful, but I have no regret. I know the women who raised me. I know that it was right, and it goes back to having moral courage. But there are repercussions. And it's okay if you decide to stand on the sidewalk and clap somebody down that street who's a marcher. It's better if you join in, because strength in numbers. That is an experience. I continue to write. You know, I write scripts. I hope to get one produced. As you know, I write books. And this is, you know, the power of the pen is extremely cathartic, and it's very important for us to write down the accounts of our experiences in your professional journey. You just never know. It's very, very, very important. Beyond, and I have to check my time. How are we? Because I'm going to do a little Q&A. How much time do I have left in my lecture? About 5 more minutes. You know, I've had many, many wonderful opportunities to talk to different groups about whether it's media or whether it's in child welfare or women in corporate, and, you know, what can we do? And, you know, writing is important and calling is important. But I think being the individual that you are, trying to cultivate your ideas and ownership of your intellectual ideas, and strategizing who are the people that are like-minded that will help me push my idea forward is the way to go. And that's not easy. It's shocking that sometimes you will be in the company of someone who will actually work against you, who does not want to see you succeed in that endeavor. And finally, and I'm going to read an excerpt before I close in the Q&A, I want to talk about self-preservation and health, physically and mentally. Being a professional woman is not an easy task, because the expectation is not only to be a professional, to be aware, to be present in your life, to care about the people around you, to be a teacher and a mentor, but you do have to go home at night. And not everyone's going to understand why your pillowcase is wet, why you're weeping quietly. Not everyone's going to understand your despair, what you've experienced at work, how you were affronted, how you were insulted, how you were ill-regarded, how you were excluded, how solitary sometimes work can be, how people tell you what a crazy idea, stupid idea, dumb idea, never happened. She's weird. Strange. She doesn't belong with this clique. Just sitting having coffee by yourself. Oh, God. The person sitting next to you could be going through this. Be kind. A simple act of kindness to another person could save their life. Just a simple act of kindness. And then pass it forward. Because this is tough, and these are tough times. People are struggling. We've got grandparents raising a second generation of children because of a whole myriad of reasons, including drug addiction and mental health and a whole host of things. Spending their retirement, trying to put grandchildren through college. You've got foster youth among you. You may not know it. You have children that are dealing with domestic violence and don't know what's going on in their families. You've got kids that are hanging on by a piece of dental floss to stay here, but you don't know that. You've got kids that don't go anywhere at Thanksgiving and Christmas because they have no place to go. And so they get as quiet as a church mouse and stay in a corner in their room hoping that the janitor doesn't find them, because this is home. So be kind to each other, even if the person that is next to you isn't kind to you. Try to forgive them. Pray them up. I'll have to come back to give you a lecture on publishing, because that's a whole other piece. But writing is wonderful. If you can get a publishing deal, it's a great thing. But writing a book, I think, is only 30% of the job. 70% of it is marketing and staying in your Timberlands on the road. So I see one of my wonderful ladies out there. She looks so upset that I said, I don't think I'm coming back to Y&R. Look, I didn't say never. I just said, I don't think. But, you know, you have to remember God has a bigger plan. So catch me on Let's Stay Together. I'll be on that show, and Single Ladies, and I'll be on Martha Stewart April 10th with my new book, Tag, Toss, and Run, 40 Lawn Games, and, you know, more stuff. Okay, so I'm going to close it up with when I was living on a farm. I'm actually a farmer, and this is my foster mother's bedroom. I was about 7. Ma's room was always a haven where all things fearful or confusing were banished. During a time when I slept with Ma, I jumped into bed first. Here there were beads and trinkets, pill bottles, her jars of Pond's cold cream, skin lotions, face powder, fabulous and expensive wigs on stands and forms, clocks, and there were candles and fabric and yarn, rugs, color, and texture for days, all in that compact New England sleeping space. Now, on the rare occasion that I wasn't feeling well, there was always a jar of Vicks Vapor Rub at the ready. That does anybody know what I'm talking about? Right. That cure-all that Agatha would rub on my chest, then give me a teaspoon of to ingest, saying, "This'll kill that old cold, Vicky." What? I never asked why. I just swallowed. I could feel the blob of heat going down like a slow ball of fire. Does anyone else remember that? I see some people saying, "Oh my God." Thought that stuff was going to kill me. There was some other confusion. Where did the Rowell name come from? What did foster mean? Many times my mother was asked, "Is Vicky your daughter?" And Agatha would say, "Yeah, she's my foster daughter." And I cringed, feeling exposed. The church lady leaving Sunday service that day, I don't think she believed herself. All such thoughts dimmed when Ma entered the bedroom on the night in question, lighting it with her presence as she looked to see that I'd laid out her rosary beads in her orange polyester pajamas. "Time to turn over, sugar, and go to sleep," she said, interrupting my reverie. I promptly turned over, face to the wall, my nose against the moist air and plaster. Ma was not only fiercely modest, but in preparing for her disrobing ceremony, she was protecting my young eyes from seeing her disfigurement. She had had a radical mastectomy. She had broken her back when she was 12. She was born in 1902, and she had Paget's disease and phlebitis in one arm. That had been explained with many, many words and had been explained many times. I remained asleep, the imaginary line down the middle of the bed, leaving an empty space that protected privacy for both of us. But this night, I needed to see for myself how deep her wounds were. How heavy was this woman's burden, who took care of so many other children? I watched Agatha's shadow and silhouette fighting against itself on the patterned wallpaper. I had to see more. Ever so slightly, I peered over my shoulder to witness the agonizing struggle she undertook to unfasten hooks with her phlebitic fingers bent behind her crooked spine. I held my breath until her effort and gravity would tear the medieval corset away from her ravaged torso and allow it to fall with a thud to the floor. We both exhaled. Curious to see what else was to be peeled away, I watched as she removed her wig and pinned it onto her styrofoam form, next lovingly applying cold cream to her face and throat. She plucked up a tissue, not turning around to see whether I was awake or asleep, and said, "Vicki, always remember that the neck and chest are all a part of the face." In closing, Agatha knew and sensed, of course, that I had been watching her. She knew that I had seen her without her wig, two thin braids neatly beneath the artificial hair. I lay frozen. How did she channel away the pain, past and present? Later, I would find out. After winding a Westclock and popping her Rolade, she pinched out the last bits of light that instantaneously left us in complete darkness. In the time that the cricket sang his first notes, crucifixes, statuettes, and rosary beads were illuminated in a chartreuse glow. The creation of this light, I believed, had to be Agatha's private miracle. Oh yes, I joined her in reciting the rosary, not understanding why she prayed for redemption. Or maybe I knew that she was as close to God as any human could be. And that through her I was with God too. You see, I was still trying to figure out who God was or what God meant. But Agatha summed it up for me, just lying there, breathing, with those plastic beads between her fingers. This woman was my fortress, and she was my belonging. And through this woman, I was given the guidelines for what mattered in life: merit and study and hard work. Music, dance, property, and people. And that's a snapshot of my portrayal of women, women in media, women proactive, women together, girl power. Thank you.
We don't have time for one question.
I'm being told that we have time for a question. So, anyone, just quickly, if we could just quickly, rapidly, yes. I can hear you.
It's more of a question I love your talk.
Thank you.
And I wanted to stress two things
Cool.
that I find it. First, the power that we have that sometimes we don't realize.
Power.
The person in power. We have tools now with social media, a lot of people on Facebook.
Yes.
We stop buying and tell other people.
That's correct.
And the second is the act of kindness. We as women, we are more critical of ourselves.
Very critical.
We have to support other women and try to not be so hard as we would do as a man
Exactly.
Those are the two things, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. We have the power, we have the social media tools, we have to use it. We have to do it again and again and again until we get the result, not just once, but many times, and not to be so critical of our own self-imagery and also projecting that on our own kids and other friends. You're good right where you sit or stand. You are enough. Any last burning question? Student? Anybody? Okay. Yes. I can hear you, ma'am.
You talk loud anyway. I'd just like to comment to say thank you for a product. After retirement, I became that foster mom with therapeutic foster children. And it's not often that we get that pat on the back after the children that we've raised, and to see our product and that they're doing very well.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for having me. Appreciate it so much. Take care. I'll be having a book signing outside.
I want to start by thanking Victoria for that wonderful presentation. Let's give her another round of applause. As you know, March is Women's History Month, and Victoria's presentation provides a wonderful way for RIT to recognize the important role women play in shaping society. Planning an event such as this requires a team of talented professionals, and I would like to thank the program committee and our student ambassadors for all of their hard work and dedication. And I'm just going to ask if any of them are in the room, if you would just stand up so we can give you a round of applause. I can't believe Grace didn't stand up. If you enjoyed this presentation, I invite you to attend another event today at RIT. We are fortunate to have internationally known artist Radcliffe Bailey in attendance today. Mr. Bailey will be giving a lecture this afternoon on mixed media art at 4 p.m. in the Webb Auditorium, which is located in the Booth Building. He will focus on his traveling exhibition, Memory as a Medicine, which recently opened at the Davis Museum and Cultural Center at Wellesley College in Massachusetts. And there will be a special treat for all who attend. I think it's okay for me to tell you that Radcliffe Bailey is in a very special partnership with Victoria Rowell. They are a dynamic wife-husband team, and they will be spending time with RIT students, faculty, and staff throughout the day. So again, thank you for joining us, and I hope that you will leave today with a deeper appreciation for some of the issues that we women face in today's society. Thank you.